Some games already finished. The others will be getting short of time, into time trouble. Exciting stuff may happen. We'll see. So let's take a look at the games, see what's happening, see what's happened. So we've got Peter Wells playing Daniel Kozusek. I don't know Daniel, so apologies. I don't know how to pronounce your surname. Let's say Daniel. So where do we leave it? In this position where I said I'd have a good think, come up with a good plan. I certainly would be trying to get out of one of these pins. What did he come up with? Knight d2. This is a beautiful square for the knight potentially, so I can totally see why you'd want to play that move. It's also opening up this beautiful bishop. Really nice piece. And I can see, see lots of potential for white here. What happened? Rook d8, getting out of this pin, protecting this pawn, makes a lot of sense. Also helps with the potentially playing c5. The downside is that it's really inviting this knight to hop into the square. So Daniel said, okay, let's hop in there. c5. Interesting. Not worried about this. And I can totally see why, because I totally happily sacrifice an exchange to park a bishop on d4. That was taken sacrificing an exchange. Again, I'm not a fan of rooks. Much prefer minor pieces, so I can totally see myself playing that move. This is such a beautiful square for the knight. This potentially is a fantastic diagonal for the bishop. The problem is that it's kind of not doing very much on a3 apart from guarding this pawn, which it might be difficult to sort of rearrange your pieces so that they do fulfill their potential. Interesting though. Interesting. This is the position we have where Peter Wells is down to 11 minutes. I don't think that there's any extra time given, so it's just the increment. So potentially this is going to be a tricky one practically for Peter to play. We see the eval bar gives black a minor edge here, but this is, I don't feel this is an easy position to play for either side really, so I'd much prefer to take the side with 45 minutes rather than 10. Interesting one though. I think things are going to happen in this game. And despite black having an edge according to the computer, I think this could go the other way. Let's take a look at John's game. Whoa, lots has happened there. What is going on? We left it, I think, queen g5, thinking that maybe e4 was going to be played, cutting off this bishop and with a tempo. What was played? Bishop f1. Trying to be super safe. I can see the merits of this as well. Black goes back. Not quite sure. I suppose white did have threats. White had threats of f4, hitting these two pieces. Also of potentially taking here. So getting out of this discovered attack makes sense. I feel like maybe there was something a bit more, maybe a bit more dynamic. It seems a bit I don't know. Maybe queen here. I feel like potentially opening up, you sort of tempting g3. Anyway, lots of moves have happened. Let's cover those. Queen b4, not quite sure what it's doing, but it's one of those positions where you just need to have a think. F4 seems committal. I think you have kind of solidified here. It's white. Black's certainly better. And I think F4, bishop back, A4. Wow. I'd be worried about things happening around on the king's side to be playing things on the queen's side. I think that's if we keep things simple, what if we take here? Bishop takes something like rook e8. That just looks unpleasant to me. Anyway, bishop a7, apparently a good move. Rook e1. Oof, the Valbar does not like that, and there is a win here for black, which is missed. What was it? I mean, is it as simple as taking and then pinning? Is just something like that? Good. It is not that, but it doesn't look like the easiest thing to deal with. What else could it be? Any help? Okay, let's go back to basics. Checks and captures, threats. So there are no checks, captures. So if we've got bishop takes, bishop takes. I mean, I suppose actually maybe even just queen b6. Oops. We kind of want to force white to take, because when we play rook takes, then we have a really horrible discovered check, and it's going to be checkmate. So if we can force white to take on d4, then we're going to be winning. So can we force it with something like here? That is also not it. Yeah, one that requires a bit more thought, but I'd imagine it's something along the lines of making that happen. Which what just did. Why would you not take with a rook? I don't understand. Why wouldn't you not take with a rook? That just looks like it wins. If it takes here, then that's check. And then you collect this later. I don't know. He took there, and No, it doesn't look so bad now for white. That's a weird miss. Yeah, white's very much escaped. And it's equal. And that's I guess that's kind of forced. Now, I mean, it's equal, but white, I guess, is the only one that can play for the win here. There's no way that these two pieces can shepherd this pawn down the board without becoming uncoordinated and losing, basically. Now, this bishop protects this pawn, which protects this rook, which protects this bishop. So they are all protecting each other from this nasty queen, as long as they stay exactly where they are. If any of them move, it breaks the entire safety net. So that's a big risk. The problem, white's got a lovely queen, but no supporting cast. It's just a king. This rook cuts off the king from ever getting up into up into potentially making a mating net. So I don't understand how white is going to make any progress here. And it might be the case that maybe white can't make progress, or not easily, and maybe it's a draw because of that. One way I can think of potentially progress being made is if potentially white gets f5 in at some point. If the rook takes, then it breaks this kind of lovely defensive setup, and if at that point there's some sort of check picking up a bishop, then or some sort of threat, then maybe white can make progress. And if f5 has to be answered with pawn takes, if the king is in the right place to sort of get in and then start to create sort of mating threats, then potentially that's another way of making progress. But this seems to be a long shot. There is danger while trying to set these things up. If the king needs to sort of come up here, then it could potentially get mated itself. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. This is kind of a funny position. It seems like a semi-fortress for black. Yeah, who's going to be trying to do what? But I guess this is going to be ending in a draw, maybe. Let's take a little look at some of the other games. Right, so if we go back to Oscar Pollock against Kim Nielsen, there seems to be a shift. Often when you miss a win tactically, there can be a bit of a shift. You lose a bit of your advantage, and then the momentum shifts. So if we go back to this point, this is why you train your tactics. This is why you do puzzle after puzzle, because it's times like these where you need to find moves like this, which is tricky, very difficult moves to find. But this would have killed the game right there and then. And if we go back to part one, then you can kind of see my thought process of how I found that move. But it's a difficult move to find, but this is why we do calculation training. This is why we do puzzles, and there's plenty of them available on chess.com. So yeah, after this, the things started to slip from a massive advantage. It was +4 if you found this move, to things just started chipping away. And we're already back to equality only a few moves later, according to that bar. Now, this is just a common story, common pattern. This kind of happens in games where if you do miss a win, then these things happen, and it feels painful over the board. It's kind of hard to play on. So here we go. Takes. Potential. Question mark given. Why is that? So if we count the material, we are equal at this point. This knight is defending this rook. It's the only thing defending it. Can we dislodge this knight somehow? Something along the lines of knight b6. Or f6 is another thing in consideration. I'm not going to spend too much time trying to find what the best move is here. Wow. That is... I would never have found it, g6. I have absolutely no idea why that is the best move, but it's probably something to do with this. Yeah. If the engine is correctly run. So anyway, f6 takes. This is just a complicated mess. I do not understand that move. What is the idea behind bishop f1? To try to come here and attack this one? That seems kind of... Yeah, I guess this is the kind of position where it's not great just commentating, because you need to actually have a think and work out what on earth is going on. It seems like a complete mess. But black is better now, so where black has got an extra pawn. So essentially what black needs to do is just swap everything off and win the king and pawn endgame, or whichever endgame is before then. Ideally, we kind of want to get the queens off so that there's no sort of checks and mates and things. This knight is fantastic. Defensive piece, attacking piece. This knight is glued to d5. It's a problem. So just swap pawns off, swap pieces off as much as you can, and decomplicate the position. Right, let's take a look at some of the other games. In passing, I can see that John has played my f5 sack. So a draw doesn't seem to be good enough for him, despite the craziness of all of this game. He has gone f5, and this is the winning attempt. It's a nice move. I can totally see why he did it. It gives the king potential passage past this sort of rook. I don't understand why Jack is played bishop d5 unless it's sort of winning attempt. You know, I would just be shuffling pieces around, waiting for the draw to happen. Just be kind of playing, you know, my king back and forward and just offering a draw, I think, if I was Jack. So you are relying on a mistake by white to win this game. Unless he was looking to set up a different kind of fortress. Maybe he was looking to play his bishop here, just giving up this pawn and just saying, okay, it's a draw. Maybe that was the idea. But bishop d5 cuts off this square here. So anyway, I'm spending too much time on this one. Takes, and yeah, I guess still very much equal, but things could happen in this game. Let's see, Sam Dukes, we left this game when bishop h3 happened, so g5. Oof. We're not going to be playing positionally here. I wouldn't have seen that one coming. Out of nowhere. Where is that bishop going? Backwards. Knight c6, queen a4. Yeah, this is really not positional chess. I'd be fancying to take this though. I don't care too much about giving that square away, do I? Maybe with a bit of calculation anyway. Okay. A miss. I mean, yeah, that looks like a fairly nice move that you do want to be playing. Don't understand how this was missed if this was the case. I mean, this is just a nice position for white. This pawn's going to drop, and then white's the one playing for the win. I think maybe g5 was maybe a little rash. Although Caputo gives it as a top move. Wow. Maybe Sam's a genius. Yeah, okay. Well, top engine move. C4 is the problem, so what could Black have played instead? The problem is this needs defending by this bishop, but this bishop wants to sit on this square. Maybe we can play something like rook b8, rook b6 would then hit the queen. I like the look of this. The other option is to play rook c8, defending this pawn so that the bishop can do what it wants. Maybe rook b8 to me looks I suppose you are asking for potential mate because something like this, it's very difficult to defend against this now. Yeah, I mean, I guess this g5 move is kind of like top engine move, but you still have to continue playing like an engine to justify it. It's not a human move, so I think it's safer to play something else here, just something normal like d7. Gives you sort of better practical chances. Let's take a look at one of the other games. Something I haven't covered. We had a little look at James Thomas's one just before the break. Let's see what happened after g5. Takes. Just grabbing the pawn. Okay. Black gets his pawn back. And now I think white is basically saying, okay, great. That's fine. I'm going to pop my king on h1. It's nice and safe there. And let's play on the king side. And your knight is going to be sitting over there, not doing very much. I guess maybe h8 is a safer square. This is kind of asking for trouble. Coming into the middle. Knight e4. And the idea is if takes, then what happens here? Okay, this just wins, yeah? g7 wins the queen. So knight e4, very nice move. Brings this knight over into the game very nicely. And I guess there is a win here now. Well, white has a very significant advantage. I'd imagine that we at least have to look at this. The other thing to look at is knight takes h7. So here, I kind of want something a bit more than just taking the extra pawn. I feel like this king is so unsafe that there should be something more than just taking this pawn. Maybe knight e6. Takes, and then I'm kind of threatening to sort of come in and threatening this pawn as well. I don't know, maybe there's something else. I'm going to spend too much time trying to find it. Maybe maybe this is better actually. Okay, it's not looking too good there for James. What else have we got going on? Okay, so Olivia, this looks good. Let's see how we got here. She seems to be playing nicely here. We left it at this position, and Callum kind of did what I suggested and maybe just offered the at least temporary sacrifice of a pawn. The problem is that this is another pawn on a black square. With a black squared bishop, that's not what you want in an endgame. And Olivia just went, no, I don't really fancy that pawn. Let's push it forward. And if takes, this rook is fantastic then on that H file. This pawn will come and defend this one. And the key is here that black's pawns are on white squares. This bishop will never touch them. Let's fight for the E file. And now again, this is the only pawn left on a black square. This is very good technique. This is exactly what you should be trying to do in end games where there are bishops. Pop your pawns on the other color. It's a good technique there by Leb. And now that the pawns are on the right color squares, it's a good time to get these rooks off. So you could easily just trade the rooks off here, and I'd be confident in predicting that the black is doing well. But an even better move is rook e4, because again it's a white square, but if rook takes rook, you undouble these pawns. It's kind of like almost like gaining a pawn. You're almost like winning a pawn there, because the pawns are undoubled, and then it's a connected pass pawn. Okay, so this is just basically losing a pawn, I think. Rook takes there, and then essentially like you're never getting that pawn back. So now it's fine to sort of transpose into a king and pawn endgame where you're just a pawn up and you have better pawns. It's just sort of, this should be sort of trivial now. Black's king is going to come here, and then white will run out of moves. Eventually it will be Zugzwang, and black will take this pawn. And then there'll be 3 against 2 on this side. The 3 will be able to make a single pass pawn against the 2, distract this king to the queen side, while this black king will then go and mop up these pawns over here, and one of these will promote. So that's basically the technique for winning this endgame now. If we go back, let's have a little look at one of the other games. Anything further down going on? It's interesting. Yeah, if anybody specifically wants me to cover any games, then just pop it in the chat, and I'll if I see it, I'll cover that. Right. Let's see. I mean, there must be a lot of digital boards to cover all the games. Impressive. Let's have a little look at Joe's game. Emily Matten, I don't know her, but I know she played John Blackburn in the first round and managed to draw that, so it's a good result. Grunfeld, can't stand playing against the Grunfeld. Okay. Wanting to take back with the pawn, the queen takes, threatens there. All very tricky. And now we get a Carlsbad pawn structure, or at least after c6, which I assume would be coming at some point, where we have a minority attack, probably 2 against 3. Well, that would be white's aim, at least. Yeah. Black is very solid, but white is a very clear and easy plan of just kind of going after this side. I think this is kind of an unusual spot to put your rook. I think it's very clear that you're supposed to be sort of playing along these files. So I think naturally the home for one rook is probably here and the other one should be here. That's what I would want. It would take it would take a bit of calculation to check if that is possible, but it feels like that this is the wrong square for that rook. Queen e7, knight pops in, and again, now this rook definitely is on the wrong square. We would want this rook to come here now. So it's probably going to go their next move. We've kind of lost some time. I think if you want to play knight c5 and take back with that pawn, you sort of can just leave your rook at home here and play this even now. But maybe rook b1 is probably the better move. I'd want to be taking back with this rook, because if possible, because then b5 comes, and you can double on that c5. Again, I think the action is going to be happening on this b file, so maybe something like rook b3 makes a lot of sense. I guess this is kind of a prophylactic move against b6, but I think let's at least work it out. If this rook b3 here, I suppose rook here. I guess if I'm opening the c file, then this pawn is going to be vulnerable, and I can flick in a bishop a6, dislodging that at some point at my choosing. So I don't know. Anyway, e4 doesn't look quite right. I think black probably missed something along those lines. It felt like black was sort of starting to outplay white a little, and there was probably something in there somewhere to start to play for the win. I mean, the minority attack is just absolutely not worked out, and it's white that has weaknesses now. I think these pawns are weaker than black's pawns. In addition, the open file is controlled by black, so I think Black absolutely has won the battle of that and defended the minority attack quite well. I think, I guess the idea behind putting the queen here is to sort of keep this sort of cheapo bishop takes g6 available, because it doesn't seem like queen e5 is the best square for the queen. Yeah, maybe queen e7. Double exclamation mark. I think that's quite generous by the software. I guess it's kind of leaving this bishop on pre, but it's a fairly obvious reason for it. Double exclamation mark's a bit generous. And I guess now those last few moves are probably inaccurate by Black, because now White is quite happy. The b file is no longer an issue, so I guess White lost the battle of the b file, and now it's been neutralized. And now, similar to that last game with Olivia that we talked about, there are white squared bishops, and Black's pawns are largely on white squares. White's pawns are largely, well, it's 50-50, but these ones that are, this one especially that's kind of planted, it can't move, it's on a black square at least. So I think now White is the one that should be a little bit happier. And I'd be thinking about potentially playing h4 and h5 now, using this pin. After h4, Black would like sort of to reply with h5, but can't because of the pin. And essentially this is coming next, which weakens everything on the black side. I think I'd be tempted by h4 there. Went with queen f6. What's the idea? I'm not quite sure what the idea is. Queen g8 seems very passive. I guess the idea is to come here, and that would force the trade of queens, because queen a1 would win the bishop otherwise. But I wouldn't be so unhappy as White, because again, it's a pure white squared bishop endgame now, and these pawns are fixed on white squares. Can White do something about it? Again, good technique, keeping the pawns on black squares, keeping the king out. So I'd imagine that this endgame, like, technically is drawn, but if anyone's going to be playing for a win, it's going to be White. Like, I'd imagine it would be difficult to make progress, even if you did sort of bring your king onto d4. Yeah, how's it getting in? There's not enough weaknesses. Black's got one weakness. You need two weaknesses generally to win a game, so that you can play one against the other. Right, let's move on to another game. John has drawn against Jack. Let's have a look at the end of the game. Guess he just decided that there was no way of making progress. Yeah, basically where we finished. I think the engine said that potentially he could play h3. Maybe not. Yeah, h3. I would have played on here, I think. Just had a go. If you win this pawn and there's a passed h pawn, I don't really know how you're going to be making progress, but I guess White is the only one that, I mean, I can't see like a winning try for Black. So I guess just go round and round in circles and hope he blunders a rook by playing too quickly, or a bishop. Let's say we try and do something like this, then I think I would probably just like pick up this pawn and then threaten to do something with my H pawn. If this bishop stays here and guards this, then it's loose. I don't know. If you do this to defend it, then you can at least pick this one pawn off. I mean, the engine is saying this is the best move, but if black needs to find moves like this, then I think it's worth playing on. Like, you can see a position here where I suppose that's a fortress, isn't it? But it means at least black has to find this bishop g4. So if h3, what else could black do? You'd kind of be wanting to try and set up the fortress, I guess. So if you do something like a5, d8. I guess if you win this pawn instead, then black's king is going to be in danger. I don't know. It's a very good practical try. I think I would have had a go at least playing h. The point of h3 is to stop the bishop from coming onto this square and causing problems. But yeah, it's equal. So further down. Oh wow, Daniel Koscheck beat Peter Wells. That's a nice win. Let's see how it ended. I think I called it, didn't I? I think we got to this sec, and I said, "Oh, I'd fancy white with the time advantage." So black decided to give the exchange back, like, straight away. Was there anything better? I guess this is where he probably should have gone, although it's, it's a messy position. Like, black's pieces are just so uncoordinated. Even if the engine is giving like a little plus, I think with not much time, this is such a good practical try. This exchange stack is a really good practical try, and it worked out really well. This is blunder. I guess the blunder is queen a4. He has to go passive, and it's quite easy, I guess, to misevaluate this position and think that it's not too bad, but I think this pawn just keeps going, and that just blunders a piece. Two things attacking his bishop, only one defending, has to move it out the way, and now this wins. Really nice win. It's in a good position in the tournament now. Okay. Looks like Oscar Pollock's game against Nielsen has completely turned around, and he's going to lose. Sam Dukes' game has gone downhill after c4. The wrong non-choice thing to defend h7. This kind of keeps things under wraps, I guess. Messy, absolutely messy position, but this bishop needs to join in this attack, but it can't. Black's better though. Okay, he missed his chance there. So, but I guess this is a tough move to see, and that was probably the blunder. Although white's on top anyway, this move is really good. And if takes, oops. Takes, hits this rook, hits this pawn, and black is going to be in trouble. Yeah, looks like this one's coming to an end, and just going to have a little break. Be back in a second. Right, so it's coming to an end, this round. Interesting round. A few draws on top, so Dan will be happy about that. John's messaging. That was fun. Yeah. Let's go back and round up, I guess. There's not too many games left.